Rancho del Lago 2021, and I'm CheryLynn. Thanks for being here. Welcome back again. Continuing today on land and escaping the madness of the stuff that's going on in the U.S. For people who are concerned, who think they want to live somewhere else and are perhaps considering their options here in Mexico. Glasses, because 2 days ago I had my cataract surgery on this eye, and still a little swollen and sensitive to light. So it is recommended that you wear the sunglasses for several days, and then Tuesday I'm going to get this eye done, so it'll be another week of the same. In any case, we're coming along just fine. I wanted to mention to you just a couple of things before I get into the meat of today's video. I had some comments about the last video where I talked about land types and buying land. I wanted to clarify a couple of things. When I said different kinds of land, one of them being land on the coast, I didn't mean to infer that that is ejido land. What I meant was that has a different classification. There is a law within Mexico, and as I recommended you to get a good attorney, good realtors, a notario, etc., legal people, people in the know about land and all of the ins and outs of it. The classification for the coastal land is a land that you cannot outright purchase. It's done through a trust in a bank, and it just works a little bit differently. So that's really all you need to know now, unless you plan on buying land right on the coast, and then consult with your attorney about that. Whether it's on the coast or inland, land can be owned by and managed by the ejido, or managed by and owned by countless families and people. That land you really want to steer clear of, even though it exists the possibility of going through the legalities of what need to be done and purchasing that land. The hassle and time element and cost involved in it is pretty prohibitive. So any land that you buy, that you want to buy, needs to be outright owned by the person selling it. And that's my clarification. Okay. One of the other things I want to tell you about land here is that not only are the land classifications and rules and regulations and laws and costs different, but the land itself is different. Where I'm located, which is on Lake Chapala, we are in a mountainous area, a volcanic mountainous area. So underneath the soil is volcanic material. To the far west end of the lake, there's actually still underground activity that heats the water, and they actually have hot water spas there. There are, I believe, 5 volcano areas in a relatively close circle around us, or kind of an area around us. None are active at this moment. Well, I can't say that. Actually, on the other side of the lake, on the south side, there is one down Colima that spouts off and puffs every once in a while. It could blow. It could blow at any time. So that would be the only one that would be an active. I think most of the others are dormant, but don't quote me on that because I haven't really made that a study of mine. I just am talking about the kind of land that we have. Now, the soil that I deal with out here, it seems to do great for agriculture, but not so good for home gardens, and I'm not quite understanding why. But it needs a lot of amendment for what I'm planting. I don't know. Anyway, The ground is, you see those pictures of like places like Africa where when it's dry, the ground gets all full of cracks. It does that here. It probably, I'm going to say, at least 6 inches down, maybe deeper. It gets cracks in it, big gaping cracks when it's at the driest part of the year. It's already starting to crack now at the end of November, and we had rain through October. So it doesn't take too long. It's very mucky, clay-like when it's wet. I mean, literally, you get your feet stuck in it. And you definitely don't want the dogs to play in it and bring it in your house. So it makes it difficult for growing. I think when I am actually applying myself to a garden, which I've haphazardly done it 3 times already over the course of the last 3.5 years we've been here at the house. I have tried planting right into the ground, and the little gentle, tender roots just can't get through this clay. The plants get maybe an inch or 2 high, and then they just kind of die. So then I tried some raised gardens, and we only raised it like 1 cinder block. Not enough, because again, when the roots start to go down, they hit that and it's like hitting a brick wall. So I'm going to try cinder blocks a couple high and see how I do with that. I attempted to build a wicking bed, but another thing about our ground here is that it moves all the time. So building any structure, it's going to move. It's going to go up in one end and down in another end. And it's just, I mean, when I go outside around my property and I have chain link fences all over the place, so I try to go through a gate. Sometimes the gates gap so far, the little slider won't go in, and I have to actually chain it with a padlock. And sometimes it gets so close that it overlaps and the gate won't go through like that, won't open and close both ways. And it's drastic, which is why I keep getting cracks in my house all over the place. But you have to compensate for those kinds of things. There are, in the heavy rainy seasons, there are times when we have landslides here. There are times when we have floods, pretty good floods here. And then there are times on the opposite end of the spectrum where it's so dry, it's like one of those silly cartoons of the desert where someone is lying on their belly and pulling themselves along, and there's, sunshine and no water anywhere. It gets brutally hot, but it's not for a horrible period of time. It's like when it gets wet and yucky wet, it's only for short bursts. When it gets cold, it's only for a short burst. When it gets really hot, it's only for a short burst. The majority of the time here, our climate is delightful, especially where I am, because there's nothing between me and the lake except for agricultural fields. And generally that's corn when it's in season. So those are just some things about the land here, but it is important to know if you're going to build, because it greatly affects the kind of foundation that you're going to put in. It greatly affects your gardening because it affects the kind of garden. Is it going to be a raised garden? Is it going to be a garden in the ground? Now, one of my neighbors rents a portion of an ejido managed field to grow things on and sell them produce. They just till it with the tractor and put things in, and he has the drip system for irrigation, and plants grow. Sorry, I got interrupted by my gas man arriving to deliver gas, and On an ominous note, he said that all of the gas tanks in Guadalajara are almost empty until they get import of more gas. That when he runs out, he won't have any more to deliver. So that's not good news. But I'm glad I got my tank filled, and that's usually good for us for 3 months or so. So there shouldn't be any problem when it's time to fill it again. Okay, in any case, so we talked about land, we talked about the movement here, and the movement here is because of water, subterranean water. And when it gets really dry, it acts differently than when it's really saturated. The surface doesn't have to be wet for it to be wet underneath. Water comes down from the mountains and flows subterraneously out to the lake, which is south of me. And you never know. You just never know when it's going to change, when it's going to affect the gates. I know when I go out to feed the animals, and that's about it. So that makes it also difficult for planning a build. Even when we're planning outbuildings for the animals, I have to kind of consider, what are we doing? So far we've just done, slap it together pallets for the goat shed, and haven't really built much of anything else. We did build a wooden chicken house, but we put it up on stilts with cinder blocks underneath each of the 4 columns, and that way we can adjust if we need to. There's a lot to deal with when you are homesteading. When you're just a homeowner, there's a lot to deal with. And with the unpredictable weather changes, air conditions, land conditions, water conditions, seasons, raininess and without rain, drought. I mean, there's nothing that you can count on anymore, because even though I've only been here 6.5 years, in the last 2 years, it's been so vastly different than the 4 years before. And I know it's going to continue to get even more different. So there's really nothing you can count on. We do want to do the best we can with what we've got, and so we do. And if we have to drop kick and punt later, then we do that too. It's all part of living. It's all part of living on the land, on a homestead, on a farm. You take what you get, you take the hand you're dealt, and you play it the best way you can. So we have a couple of things coming up soon, very soon. I have baby bunnies that are due in a few days, and tomorrow or the next day, we should have little ducklings starting to hatch. I've had so many comments, requests, because I've joined several different Facebook groups having to do with homesteading and farming and animals and gardens and those kinds of things. Requests for my YouTube channel. People are interested, and the numbers of people being interested, it's growing. The Back to the Land movement, people interested also in moving out of the U.S. I got to tell you, I took a little zoom through YouTube, and just to see the kinds of videos that are really becoming popular right now, and honest to goodness, like every other one that popped up having been recently viewed or asked for, had to do with moving to Mexico, moving to another country, building, farming, back to the land, off-grid. It's just amazed me, absolutely amazed me. But, I mean, I had this, not really a premonition, it was just kind of like an internal urge 7 years ago to get the heck out of where I was and go someplace where I had possibilities of not only being able to afford a comfortable future, but just in case, a lot of just in case. And as I said before in some of my earlier videos, I didn't plan on being a homesteader here. I didn't plan on having a farm, but it evolved that way. And I'm very glad that it did, because what we have and what we're building, will afford us not only the ability to take care of ourselves, but the possibility of helping other people as well. Not only with what we grow as far as animals and produce, but the land that we have. And if I have to rearrange so that I take in, a family or two, or allow 2 or 3 RVs onto the property, I'll see how that can work out. I think that that's part of being a good person, being a Christian person, and just being somebody who wants to help, who wants to give back. I've been helped many, many times in my life, and to be able to help other people is just what's supposed to happen. It's give and take. It's give and take. And as long as you're doing that, it's joyful. So I hope you all feel the same way, and that's why you're here watching. I do want to ask you if you will help in growing this channel, because the information that I'm able to bring you, the experiences that I'm able to bring you, the opportunities that I'm able to inform you about, if that's helpful to you in any way, then share it, because it could be helpful to lots of other people too. So if you would subscribe to my channel, like the videos as you watch them, and share them with your friends, anybody you know who might also have similar interests, that might be exploring their options outside of where they presently live, and what new adventures they could be on in packing up and moving to a new place. The season here is upon us. If someone wants to come down and visit and do an exploratory trip, this is the high season. So when you look for a place to book for staying, your rates are going to be higher than they would be in another part of the year. But it is a beautiful part of the year, so pay a little bit more and enjoy it. There are festivities, holidays, parades, things going on all the time. Each of the little towns along the lake has a different saint, and this is the time of year that each little town celebrates its saint, usually for something like 7 to 10 days of partying and fireworks and these boom boom things that make all kinds of noise that scare the crap out of your dogs. But Mexicans know how to party, know how to celebrate, know how to appreciate a multitude of things, and they do. So this is a great time of year to be here. Sorry you missed the Day of the Dead activities, because those are pretty special too. Don't believe some of the things that you see in the other videos. I saw one today that was just a year old, and it said, "Come build a house for $10,000. Well, excuse me, but that is a truckload of BS. There's not going to be a house that you can build here for $10,000. We are in a more expensive area because of the number of expats here, but I don't care if you go to the poorest place in Mexico. For the picture that they showed, you're not going to build that house for $10,000. If you are, it's going to be a mess. I promise you, an absolute nightmare. I don't know that there's anything else I wanted to tell you today other than to talk to you a little bit more about the different kinds of land, what you need to watch out for, make those corrections that I did in the very beginning, just in case that led someone's thinking astray on the kinds of land that you can buy, and just tell you about some of the upcoming events that we have here. So in my next video, I should be able to show you new bunnies and new ducklings, I hope. And we've got some feelers out for a male goose and a male turkey, and soon we'll be able to incubate those eggs if we find them. I know I'll think of things that I should have said after I finish the video, but we'll save that for next time. In the meantime, thanks again for watching and being here with me, and have a great few days until you see me again.